Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We're Screwed. I'm your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash, and back from the brink of death, Andy Andrews. How you doing, brothers?
Yo, good.
Happy New Year's, motherfuckers.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because Andy just had a hip replacement with his old ass, and it's kind of cool because he was all wobbly like this way because one leg was longer than the other, so now he's kind of even. So he's trying to figure out how to walk and everything again. So we're happy he's okay. He's doing well. Tonight we're going to be talking about the wildfires in California. There's a lot of shit going on with this, guys. I mean, there's so many people saying so much stuff. So I figured tonight we'll go through some of the claims, some of the stuff that's being said, and we'll figure out what's true and what's bullshit. I have some of the facts on this stuff, and so we can actually really break it down and get into it. So it doesn't have to be a bunch of conspiracy theories and craziness. We can just talk about what's actually going on. Now, some of the stuff that's actually going on will lead to conspiracy theories and nonsense and crazy talk because that's just the world we live in, unfortunately, now. Because a lot of the things that you might have thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago were crazy now are commonplace and we all know it's true. So there will be an element of that going in, but I assure you, when we get to that point, there will be plenty of receipts. We'll have already covered everything. So you'll have a very good understanding of what's going on before we start getting into crazy talk. Okay? Fair? Good. All right, so here we go. Several different claims are being made. First is that the fires were caused by climate change. This is what the California government has been saying, and the lefties have been saying, and all the wackos have been saying, it's climate change causing the place to burn down. Okay, that's complete and total horseshit. It has nothing at all to do with whether we are or not affecting the climate. Okay, the police have come out and said that it's arson. They've cordoned off areas, they know where it started, and they're saying it's arson. We have multiple reports of people running around with blowtorches setting fires. Okay, and it has also been reported on the news that some of those people were illegals that have come into the country illegally, running around with blowtorches, starting fires. Okay, so this was not climate change. It's none of that bullshit that the left talks about. It's simply some asshole burning the place down. Okay, now we'll get into why that is in the next section of the show. First, I just want to try to cover all of the information, all the facts. Okay, the second thing is that the government of California and Newsom have been saying that the reservoirs were all full, that there was plenty of water to go around. It wasn't a water issue. Okay, that is also complete and total bullshit. The reservoir that serves that area was empty. Okay, now the way they weasel around this is by saying, well, that is not a state reservoir. That is a local reservoir. Okay, not a state one. That's true. It was not a state reservoir that was empty. It was the local reservoir that was empty. But as the governor of the state, it is your responsibility to make sure that water is there. I don't care legally what it is. That's your responsibility because you're in charge. And this is fire season. That the Santa Ana winds are blowing like a son of a bitch and that there's a very good chance there's going to be a fire. Okay? You got to make sure that stuff's right. That's the first thing. Now, water is always an issue in California. They never have enough water. Now, why is that? Okay, this is something we need to get into and really talk about because this doesn't have to be like this. Okay, it is like this, but it doesn't have to be. God gave California all the water they could ever need or want. A shit ton of water. Do you know that like daily there's millions and millions of gallons of water that should be flowing right down through California where they'd have all the water they could ever use? But instead of allowing it to flow the way God intended it to flow, they have diverted the water and they're dumping it directly into the Pacific Ocean. So that water that used to flow right down through California, that made it fertile, wonderful, amazing land, where they could grow all this really cool stuff. Now it's a dusty desert wasteland in a lot of places because they have diverted that water off into the ocean instead of allowing it to flow through. Now, the reason they did it is because a bunch of wacko leftist environmental dumbasses decided that it's more important to save a tiny little fish called the Delta smelt, which ironically is also in a lot of other places. Okay, that's not the only place that fish lives. So even if that fish was wiped out there, it would be just fine. It would not be endangered or extinct. Okay, it lives in other places. But they decided that Delta smelt was more important than the people of California being able to have water. Millions and millions of gallons every day into the Pacific Ocean that should be flowing right down through California. Okay, that is just the honest to God truth. That's a fact. There would be no problem at all with filling any reservoir. There would be no problem at all with losing pressure in any hydrant. There would be no rationing of water. You'd be able to water your lawn, take showers, scrub your ass, do your dishes, play in a sprinkler, whatever the fuck you wanted to do. There would be no issues at all if the stupid idiots on the left didn't take all that water and divert it into the ocean. If they'd allowed it to flow down through California the way God intended, then California would still be an amazing, fertile, wonderful place. But instead, it's a hellhole because of those idiots. Okay? That is truth. So that's another thing we need to cover there, that they're saying it's not true. Another point that's been brought up by a lot of people and a lot of political hay has been made is the whole DEI angle. Okay? For those that don't know what DEI means, it's a leftist thing. It stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Basically, it's affirmative action for more than just blacks. Okay? It's affirmative action for everybody. Anybody that's a woman or a black or a Hispanic or any gay, whatever, like anything that's not a straight white male falls under the DEI category. Now, where this comes in is they decided a couple years ago that there was a big problem in the fire departments of California. And that big problem was there was too many white men. They needed more people of color. They needed more women. They needed more gays and transsexuals and just weirdos. Okay, they needed all these weird people. They didn't want just normal men to do it, and not just white men. Okay, Hispanic men, black men, Asian men. Any man is strong enough to do the job if they're in good shape and they've worked out and all this kind of stuff, right? It's about standards. It's about being able to do the job properly. But instead, they decided it was more important than having physical standards, because they got rid of the physical standards, right? The testing that proved that you were able to do the job. They got rid of that because, of course, the women of color and the gays and everything, a lot of those couldn't actually do the job. They weren't strong enough. So that they couldn't pass the test that needed to be passed in order to be a firefighter. So they said, well, since we want all of these groups represented, we're going to get rid of the test so that you don't have to be able to lift a certain amount of weight. You don't have to be able to go a certain amount of distance carrying weight. None of that stuff, okay? You should just be able to be in because you want to be in. So that's what they did. And they put a lot of firefighters in the fire departments of California that cannot do the job. Okay, I want to explain something to everybody who doesn't understand firefighting, who's never been a firefighter or has no affiliation with firefighting. Okay, my family are all firefighters, okay? So I can tell you every single fire department, even the most rural. We live in a town with probably less than 5 or 10,000 people. Okay, I live in a small area. Even our little small area fire department has pumps. Okay, they're like little, think of them as portable water mains. Okay, it's a pump that you can lift and carry, sit down in a lake, a pool, an ocean, whatever, and it will literally suck water out of that sumbitch, and you can fight fires with it. Okay, those pumps will pump 500 gallons a minute, so you can get a substantial water flow going. Now, does California have these pumps? Yes, they have a ton of them. So why the hell aren't they using them? Every single one of these houses that are burning has a swimming pool. The overwhelming majority of them, especially the big mansion-like places that are burned down, they all have big-ass swimming pools. You're talking anywhere between 55,000 and 100,000 gallons of water in a swimming pool like that. Okay? That's a good 80 minutes or more of steady, powerful water stream to put out that fire. And that's in every single home. They literally live right next to a fucking ocean where they could pump all the water they could ever need. There's trillions of gallons of water in the ocean, probably. Why aren't they doing it? DEI is why they're not doing it. Now, you might say, well, that doesn't make any damn sense. How does DEI mean that they're not pumping water that they could be pumping? That doesn't make any sense, James. That's stupid. But it's not, because those pumps weigh 80 fucking pounds. They're heavy. And those little bitty women and those little bitty fruity people, they can't pick that heavy ass weight up and put it down where it needs to go in order to pump the water. That's the problem. They can't do it. That's where the DEI comes in. I don't give a shit what you are. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a minority. I don't give a shit. If you can do the job, that's fine. Do the job. The problem is they're putting race and sexuality and all that stuff over the ability to do the job. So you have a bunch of people that can't lift that weight. Okay, now that's just an 80-pound pump. I can pick that up with one arm and put it where it needs to go. Okay? What are you going to do when a big old sumbitch like me passes out in that fire? Okay, say me or Andy or old boy, we're all big boys. Let's say one of our houses, let's say old boy, because he actually lives in California. Okay, let's say his house is on fire, or the house next to his is on fire. He's surrounded by fire, whatever, right? He's still alive. He's not burning, but the smoke has caused him to collapse. Okay, so he's suffering from smoke inhalation. He's not dead, but he's in a bad way, and he can't get out of that house. And that house is going to burn. It's imminent. Okay? You go into that house as a firefighter, you see old boy laying on that floor. Now, if I'm the firefighter, I'm going to pick his big ass up, throw him over my shoulder, and get the hell out of there with him. But what's that little 85, 90 pound, 110 pound woman going to do? She ain't picking his big ass up. She ain't dragging his ass nowhere. And that's backed up by the fire chief herself, who said if she comes into your house, she's not going to try to save you because she can't lift you, and it's your own damn fault you're in a fire. That's what she said. So you have people that are not capable of doing the job. They're not capable of saving your life. And they can't take advantage of the resources that they have available to put out those fires because they can't lift the pumps. That's where DEI comes in. That is 100% the fault of the left, the Democrats. It's their fault because that's what they want. Okay? So that is another fact that people have been saying and other people have been saying isn't true. Okay? Now, here's something that's kind of interesting to me. They have already begun talking, okay, Gavin Newsom and the people in the government there in California have already begun talking, and they reported this on the news, that they are going to seize this land that is burnt. And they're going to create something that they've been wanting to create for quite a long time. Okay, if you look at all of their white papers, if you look at things like Agenda 2030, which is what their new thing is, it used to be Agenda 21, but they got behind schedule. So now it's Agenda 2030. There's a lot of things like that. Okay, and in that they talk about 15-minute cities. Now, what a 15-minute city is you're supposed to be able to, from your home, be able to take care of all of your needs within a 15-minute walk from wherever you live. So you shouldn't have to have cars. You shouldn't have to have all this. You have some public transport, and you have everything you need around you within a 15-minute radius so that you don't have to go anywhere else. Okay? It's supposed to be the city of the future. It's a big thing the left have been trying to do. And the problem is you can't fulfill that because you can't build a 15-minute city in a place where there's already a city. Now, they got to pick a Democrat state, a deep, deep blue state filled with leftist wackos, because if you don't have a blue state filled with leftist wackos, normal people aren't going to vote for this shit. Okay? Normal people have a little bit of sense. So they say, okay, we got to do it in a very, very blue state where we got a bunch of leftists who will vote for anything we say. Okay? So that's why they choose a place like California. Okay? But the problem is you can't build that 15-minute city there in LA because there's already people that live there. And those people are not going to give up their homes. And you can't just go in and do eminent domain. I mean, you could try. But the problem is a lot of those homes that you want to get rid of so that you can build this are multi-million-dollar mansions owned by very famous and powerful people. So it's not like you can just take their shit and they're not going to do nothing about it. You're going to have to fight for decades in court to get those properties. Okay? So it's kind of funny to me that the place is burning down because of arson. And already they're talking about on the news seizing those properties and building a 15-minute city. That's kind of sketchy to me. And that's got to make you think. What did we see in Hawaii? We saw the places burn. We saw they couldn't get any water. Nobody was allowed to help. Nobody was allowed to do anything. And then all of a sudden, they start talking about taking everybody's land. What did we see in North Carolina? A natural disaster that wiped out a whole big area. People tried to help, and they were threatened with arrest for helping. Those people are still screwed. They're still sleeping in tents and shit in this cold. But you can't barely help them because they will literally threaten to arrest you. It's insane. And now we got this shit going on in LA, which to me doesn't smell right. You know, the fires aren't even out. And you're already talking about seizing the land and building a 15-minute city. Something tells me you had this shit planned beforehand. Now that's starting to get into the conspiracy land. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Okay? But all I'm saying right now is that don't smell right. That don't smell right at all. But I want to finish this fact thing. Something that we've been talking about, and if you go back and you check our old shows on Staring probably a good 6-7 years ago, we did a show about California and the wildfires they were having at that time. And I went into great detail on forest management and fire management and the things that you need to do. Okay? The reason I say that is because that's another thing that everybody's talking about is that they're not taking care of their forest. And that is causing a situation where it's almost guaranteed there's going to be bad fires. Okay, and you have the leftists saying that that's not true, that they're full of shit, and that they have plans to fix their forest. But when you actually look at the plans that they put out, there's really nothing in there that's going to help anything. Because here's what you got to do. When you have a forest, okay, you've got to do what's called forest management. Now that's a fancy little management type term, like you would get in a conference room somewhere, right? Basically what that means, you got to clean that shit up. Okay? In a forest, things die. So you're going to have deadfall. What deadfall is a tree that has died and has fallen over. It's going to be in various stages. Sometimes it's fresh deadfall. Sometimes it's been sitting and rotting for quite a while. So it's that spongy, crumbly kind of deadfall. Okay? Usually in a normal forest, it's really moist and wet. So it's spongy and you can literally take pieces of wood and squeeze them and wring water out. Okay? But in California, they've diverted all that water into the fucking ocean to save some little dumbass fish that nobody gives a shit about. Okay? So they don't have all that water. So their forest is not sopping wet. Their forest is bone ass dry. Because they've been having drought situations and no water coming in. So there's not a whole lot of groundwater there to fuck with. Okay? So you got deadfall and you've got what's called undergrowth. Undergrowth is all the little shrubs and sticker bushes and annoying shit that grows on the forest floor. Because one thing that nature does not like, it's empty space. Okay? Especially like in a forest or something like that where there's plant life, they're going to do everything they can to fill that space. So anytime you have something that comes through and makes a hole, okay, let's say you have a fire go through and it burns everything down. literally within weeks, you'll see shit start popping up again. And within a couple months, it'll be little plants everywhere. Within a year or two, you won't even know that place burned because it'll be forest all over again. You know? Now, granted, the trees won't be as big, but it'll have a bunch of growth because it always tries to cover up them holes. Okay, so you got to clear out the underbrush. You got to clear out the deadfall. You also have dead standing. Okay, remember in the beginning I said dead standing and dead fall. Dead standing are what they called in the old days widowmakers. It's dead trees that are still standing up. And the reason they call them widowmakers is because when wind comes along and blows, a lot of those dead branches up top, the big heavy ones, will break and fall because they've dried out and they're not bendable and supple anymore. They're brittle. So when the wind blows too hard, it'll break and they'll fall. And they would fall and hit you on your head and kill you. Okay, that's why they used to call them widowmakers. But those dead standing are a problem too. Because when a fire comes through a forest area, that's what catches fire. All that underbrush, the dead fall that's on the ground, and then the dead standing trees are what burn. And the dead standing is almost worse because it helps the fire spread a lot faster. See, when you got the dead fall and the undergrowth, the fire's still down on the bottom and it moves slower. But when you get the dead standing, it's standing up, and when it catches fire and goes up and burns, those sparks and embers that come off of that will get blown by the wind, and they will go much further than the ground level sparks and embers do. So they'll start other fires here, here, and here, and here, and all over the damn place. And then you get multiple fires burning at once, and it's just a bad, bad situation. Now, if you do what they call proper forest management, you are getting rid of that stuff. Okay, you're cutting down all of your dead standing. You're cutting and pulling out that deadfall. You're getting rid of all that undergrowth. Now, getting rid of the undergrowth doesn't mean you got to go in there with lopers and chop, 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 and snip all those little bushes and get them out of there. Okay, what they do in a lot of places is they'll fence off an area with like electric fence. It's really easy. It's literally just poles with line, and you just can stick them down and make a little corral area. And they'll do big areas like that, and they'll release like sheep in or goats, stuff like that in, and they'll go in and they'll just eat all that little shit up, and then they just move it, and they just do section after section after section after section, and that's how you manage it. You know, it's great for the people that own the sheep or own the goats or whatever because they get free grazing for their animals, and it's great for the forest and the state because they don't have to pay people to come in and cut all that shit down. They got people that will do it for free. Basically, the animals do it for free, so you just bring them in and let them do it. And in a lot of places, they use pigs as well. The problem with pigs, the reason I don't like pigs, is because pigs are little assholes. They fuck up everything. Because what they do is they constantly dig with their nose and root, and they're looking for like little roots and truffles and stuff like that under the ground that they can eat, and little bugs and shit like that. So they'll upturn a lot of ground. So the problem with bringing pigs in is if you don't keep pigs moving constantly, if you let them sit in an area for too long, you'll have nothing but a big mud pit there, and they'll just destroy everything. So it's much easier and better to use goats or sheep. Sheep eat mostly just grass and the leafy parts. Goats will eat damn near everything, but they won't tear up the ground like pigs do. And then you bring in, either you can open it up and allow people to go in and cut firewood, right, on your land. You can say, hey, you guys can come in and cut firewood if you want anything that's dead. You know, go through and have somebody mark the trees with X's or whatever. All the dead fall that, or all the dead standing you want to get rid of, all the dead fall on the ground is fair game. Come on in and get whatever you want for firewood. As long as it has an X on it, you can cut it. So then you get rednecks doing the work for free. Because shit, you tell a redneck you can have some free firewood, shit, we're going. We're loading up the pickup truck, and me and Andy are heading on down the mountain, and we're going to get some free firewood. And we're going to have wood for our wood stove, and we're going to have a couple truckloads of wood to sell. Because that's what rednecks do. You know what I mean? We'll take care of that problem real damn fast. We can cut a lot of trees really, really quick. Now, that's how you handle it. And if you do that, then you don't have the dead standing, you don't have the dead fall, you don't have all that undergrowth and brush. So then if some asshole does come along and start a fire, like these arsonists did, there's not all that tinder to burn. There's not all that fuel. Because what happens when fire hits trees that are alive, and green, they don't catch fire. They singe a little bit, but they don't burn. Have you ever tried to take green wood and put on a fire? What do you get? You don't get a lot of flame, you get a bunch of smoke. Because the problem is, living green wood is filled with moisture. That's why you used to be able to tap trees, and not just maple trees to get maple syrup. You can tap any tree, right? You take your spindle and you tap it in there, and water would come out the tree, and you could get a drink that way. That's because inside that tree, it's sucking water, groundwater up with its roots, bringing it all the way up the tree, throughout the branches to feed the tree and the leaves and keep everything green and wonderful. So inside that tree, you got a lot of water. It's saturated in there. So the fire comes along and can singe a little bit on the outside, but it's not going to burn that green tree very easy. It's got to evaporate all that water to make it dry enough to burn. And it's going to go out before that happens. So if you do proper forest management, you don't have all of that dry wood to burn and all that undergrowth to burn. What's going to happen is the fire is not going to spread very easy at all, and it's going to be very easy to take care of when it happens. That's why when you get a fire someplace that does know what they're doing, it doesn't spread very far. Yes, it might suck and make some smoke, and people are like, ah, shit, the damn mountain's on fire again. So then we go out there and we put it out. But within a day or two, it's done, and not a lot of people lose their homes or anything. But when you have a forest, like in California, where these dumbass liberal environmental dummies say, oh, you can't do that. You can't cut trees. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's what happens. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's guaranteed to happen. There's no way out of it. Because in nature, a fire like that is nature's way of getting rid of all of the dead old stuff so that it can start fresh and it's a healthy cycle. But you don't want that healthy cycle to happen when you got a shit ton of people living there. Because you're going to end up with a bunch of dead people. That's what's going to happen to you. So that's why you go in and you clear all that shit out of the woods so that you don't have to have a bunch of dead people. Okay? It's not complicated. It's been explained to these people over and over and over again. But they just don't listen. Because they think that it's bad to take care of your forest that way. They think it's bad to cut down trees. What they don't understand, you're not cutting living trees. You're cutting the dead stuff out of there so it doesn't burn. It's smart. But smart is not something that the Democrats do well. It's kind of like their kryptonite. You know what I mean? So I think that covers the majority of the shit that people have been saying on whether it's true or not true. Okay? There's one other thing that we'll talk about in a second, and that gets into the conspiracy territory really, really hard. But the most important part is clearing out the undergrowth, clearing out the deadfall and dead standing. Okay? Stop diverting your damn water. Let that water flow through, and you're going to have as much water as you could ever need. Okay? It's very dumb to do that. Screw the Delta smelt. Who gives a shit about that fish? Okay? Your people are more important. That water should be flowing. It flows all the way down from Canada, all the way down through California. There's no reason why any place in California should be without water. Naturally, it wasn't like that. These people made it that way. And if you live there and you're dealing with all that bullshit, you should be pissed off at your government because they fucked you on this one, guys. They have been screwing you over for years and years and years. And it's about damn time you guys stood up and stopped voting for these idiots and make something happen. You know, you don't have to live like this. We don't live like this in other states. We don't have to worry about our whole fucking city burning down every year. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It can be stopped, okay? Very important. The other important thing is you got to hire people that can do the fucking job. Okay, if you got some little woman of color or some little LBGTQ motherfucker, right? As long as they can lift the pumps and carry people out of houses, I don't give a shit if they do the job or not. But you got to be able to do the job. You can't hire people just because they're black, just because they're women, just because they're Hispanic, just because they're gay, whatever. You can't do that. You want to hire them to wash dishes or something? I don't give a shit. Go ahead. But you can't hire somebody whose job it is to be able to carry people out of burning buildings if they're not capable of lifting the people. You can't hire somebody whose job it is to hold on to a hose to put out a fire if they're not strong enough to pick up the fucking pump and put it down in the damn swimming pool so that the water will actually go through the fucking hose. You can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. And that's the problem with the left. That's the problem with the Democrats. They don't have any fucking sense. Everything they say is bullshit. They're the dumbest fucking people on the planet. And the problem is they can cover most of the shit up because the media will just lie. And nobody pays any fucking attention. But it's kind of hard to cover it up when the whole city's burning, ain't it? All of a sudden, then it doesn't matter what the news says because you can just look around and say, well, fuck you, I see fire everywhere. You're out of your mind. Okay? That's the important stuff. Now, let's talk about the conspiracy shit a little bit. Okay? We already talked about the 15-minute city thing. That borders on conspiracy simply because of the motivation. Okay? It's an absolute fact that they want to build 15-minute cities. They've been talking about it forever. It's an absolute fact that that's in their white papers, in their plans. It's also an absolute fact that they're already talking about doing it in LA. They did it on the news. Okay? All of that is not disputed, 100% true. The motivation is where it becomes conspiracy. We know it was arson that started this shit because that's what the cops said. Did they start these fires in order to burn the fucking area down so they can build these cities? Because that's sure as fuck what it looks like. I'm not saying they did. I'm not saying they didn't. But that is sure as hell what it looks like, ain't it? So I'll let you guys decide that on your own, but I know what I think about it. And I think it's awful damn fishy. Okay? Last thing I want to say in the conspiracy realm is there's been a lot of talk on TikTok and places like that and YouTube that these were direct energy weapons that were fired to start these fires. They showed video where it looks like some kind of weird glowing shit comes out of the sky and hits and fire starts. Now, I can't verify whether those videos are real or whether that is some bullshit somebody made, with CGI, with like Photoshop or some editing software. I have no idea. Okay. So I'm not using those videos as evidence or proof. But what I would say is if these fires were started with a direct energy weapon, then how come they were catching illegals running around with little bitty propane blowtorches trying to start fires? Why wouldn't they just shoot another energy weapon down? Okay? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to spend all that money and do all that shit to start them like that with some space age laser from the sky. And then at the same time, you got Juan and Sanchez running around with fucking those little blow torches trying to start fires in the woods. Doesn't make any sense. Why would you go super, super classified high tech and then super low tech at the same time? When you know that the Mexicans are going to get caught doing it. Because there's police everywhere, there's fire people everywhere, there's ambulance people everywhere, there's citizens everywhere. They're going to catch them. So why would you risk doing that? It doesn't make sense unless you use a direct energy weapon to start the fire and then you use the illegals as a distraction, having them running around with blowtorches knowing they're going to get caught so that it throws everybody off your trail. Could be not. I don't know. All I'm saying is we know that it was arson, and you got to ask yourself why. Why did they do it? I think the 15-minute city thing makes sense. I know that they've already started talking about doing it. And to me, that doesn't make sense. Put yourself in that place. You're in the government of California, whether you're the governor, right, or whether you're just some high government official. And this massive catastrophe is going on where a lot of LA is burning. People are scared. Your people are scared. People are dying. People are losing everything. It's a horrible thing. What do you say when you get on the news? Is your first instinct to say, Our prayers are with these people. It's a horrible thing that they're losing everything. We're going to do everything we can to try to help them out, right? That's what you say, right? Something like that. That's what comes into your heart. That's what comes into your mind. Not, well, now that all these houses are gone, it's a perfect opportunity to start building these 50-minute cities we've been talking about. What we're going to do is we're going to seize all of this land that's burnt and we're going to rebuild the LA of the future. That's what Gavin Newsom was talking about. We're going to rebuild the LA of the future. Wait a minute, motherfucker. That land belongs to people. Let's say you work your whole life and you buy yourself a plot of land. Okay, 5 acres, 10 acres. It doesn't have to be some massive thing. You know, it's what you work for your whole damn life. And you bought it. And you built yourself a house. And man, you're happy. You love that damn house. You feel good about yourself. You done worked hard and now you got something to show for it. A place where you and your children can live and you can pass down to your family and they can grow up and they can pass it down to their children. Feels good. Shit, a fire happened. That sucks. House burned down. That really sucks. You lost everything. Terrible. Does that mean that the land no longer belongs to you? No, it's still your land. You rebuild. You get your insurance money, which is another thing we didn't talk about, was the fact that they canceled a bunch of these insurance policies. That's fucked too. But you get your money and you rebuild your house. So why is it in LA they're talking about seizing all that property? As if it doesn't belong to those people still. Why is it in Hawaii they did steal a bunch of that property? Even though it belonged to people. Doesn't make any sense, does it? What kind of bizarro world do we live in where just because the place burns down, all of a sudden now they're allowed to just take it away from you? That's nuts. That why would you say that? Why is that what you're talking about on the news when there's still fire burning, when there's still people dying? Why are you talking about that? That tells me it's not a spur of the moment thing that he just thought of. That shit was planned. He knew when he went started talking that's what he was going to say. Now, whether he wrote the speech or somebody else wrote the speech for him, he knew that's what he was going to be talking about. That means that shit was planned beforehand. So was it just that they said, well, shit, everything's burning down. This gives us an opportunity to do what we wanted to do? Or did they already know that they were going to be able to do what they wanted to do because they were behind the burning down? That's the question you got to ask. I'm not saying yes or no either way because I don't know. But I know something stinks. I know somebody done blew up that toilet. And they didn't use incense or spray or nothing. I can smell it from here. It stinks. I smell bullshit in the air. Somebody's lying to you about something. So I think we pretty much covered everything that I need to cover. I want to throw to Old Boy first because he actually lives there. He's like a couple hours away, but he's close enough to have some kind of perspective on what's going on over there. I'm all the way on the other side of the country. So, I've given you the facts on what people are saying and what the truth is and kind of dealt with it like that and talked a little bit about the conspiracy shit. But I'd like to kind of get Old Boy's opinion because he's actually in that area and he can kind of tell us on the ground what's kind of going on. So, Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
Give me 1 minute. I'm lighting incense. And good evening and happy New Year's, motherfuckers. Sorry that we took a couple weeks. I got sick last week, and so we had to postpone the show for the last 2 weeks because we wanted to give you guys a holiday. But last week we were going to do the show, but I got sick. Nobody used rays. They caught the guy who did the fires. There was a conspiracy about it. They caught people doing it. Excuse me. They're saying that some people were doing it because they were rich. Did you see they were also caught people? They caught the looters. There was like 10 of them, 10 or 15 of them stealing stuff. Newsom and the fish thing he's talking about is true, that people are pissed off about that because they made a big fucking deal about these fish. and they're dumping water, and then they try to use that, salt water, you can't use ocean because salt water brings electricity, so does other regular water. And this is the fucking dumb shit that people don't understand. And California, people know what's going on. People are pissed right now here. Newsom knows his goose is cooked. And we're going to be fucked again because of this. Trust me, we're going to be fucked. California is fucked. Yeah, I can't see no fire. When it first happened, there was a little bit of smoke, but I live almost 90 miles away for all this shit. So I didn't see anything. I mean, I saw the fire trucks coming down because I live in the high desert. So you have to go, what happens is I live in the high desert and there's the Cajon Pass. I'm above sea level. I'm 3,000 feet above sea level. And when you get to the pass, it's about 5 to 4,800. And then it goes downhill, where the Cajon Pass is, where the fault is and all that is. So what would happen is if there is an earthquake, that part of the ocean would fall and it would be at water. Well, right where Devore is and Glen Helen, it would fill up right there, and that would be the new ocean. Then right there where the pass is, you would go down there and then you would have a new ocean. I'm just telling people what would happen. And I don't live by that. I live way past, I live about 25 minutes away. Yeah, 25 minutes, 20 miles, 22 miles away from the Cajon Pass. So I live pretty far away from it. So I don't live by this fire. I know a lot of people have lost their houses. I've heard all kinds of weird shit. Trust me, I don't believe shit TikTok. Why do you think TikTok's getting banned? Is because of this shit right here. And this is, well, we'll see, because now they're making some bill. Trump's saying he's going to get involved after he said he didn't want it. Now he does because he helped him in his election. Now he's had a change of heart. And they're trying to make a bill to October. And they will. They'll get involved in this. Whatever happens then is what's going to happen. TikTok's probably not going to get banned right off the bat. They'll fight it they'll keep going in court for about a year or two. Whatever happens. They're already making new ones anyway. Trump said all there will be is somebody else new around. What they're trying to do is sell the company to an American company. And then it won't be TikTok no more. It will be TikTok, but they won't have the same rules. You won't be able to say some of the shit you're getting away with now. And they won't be able to breach data, even though the guy's from Singapore, he fucking even said it numerous times. And it is what it is. You people have their opinions on it, and that's fine. But this is going down a slope because they haven't been able to prove this yet. They're just assuming this. So the next time Facebook or something that they don't like, and I think some of these people are involved in this, and they're saying Facebook's very much involved because they've lost a lot of viewers. And so is YouTube. And there are some of the ones who are the big names who are wanting this happen, and Instagram. So put this together. It isn't just about data breaches. It's also about control, and it's also other companies wanting this to go down. And this is the truth, and this is why Trump's going after him, because he doesn't like Facebook anyway. I wish Elon Musk would buy TikTok, because then he's talking about it. That would be cool. And just leave it how it is and probably change it out, get it. It's just Americans. A lot of people, it's just going to get banned here. And then they were saying that you can't really explain it, what that means if it gets banned. It doesn't mean you can get in trouble for having the app, because technically it's grandfathered in. So there's the argument about this. There's too many loopholes on this shit. They really didn't answer anything, and that's why Trump's going to probably make an executive order the next day, and it's not going to get banned. So getting back to the fires, a lot of people here in California are not happy. Well, trust me on this. He's right on a lot of what he's saying. Not with the bullshit on TikTok with razor beams. That shit didn't happen. Somebody lit the fires. They caught them. They also they caught the guy who was involved in it. It's just a bunch of idiots. Now there's copycats who have been caught, and they got them on camera. They arrested those guys too. And then the idiot looters that's going around looting people's houses. And people are laughing about it because it's the rich and it's this. Some of the rich have lost their houses. But You knew this could happen because of the way the weather is here. But the drought ended. But the problem is up there, they like James says, they're too worried about this fucking fish, and they're diverting it to the ocean and going around, so we're not getting the water we're supposed to be getting. And we've known this for about 20 years. But the funny thing is, up there in the north where the marijuana is at and the almond trees at, they're getting plenty of water. It's just over here in Southern California because they don't want to be a part of Southern California. If you want to know the truth, they want to split California into 5 to 3 groups, either central, southern, and north, and they wanted to do it 5, where the part of Napa Valley would be a part of Southern Oregon. So that was what was so weird. It wouldn't even been California because Oregon they get some of the water from Oregon. California one day will get split. There's too many people here. There's 39 million and a half people here. And then they said they were losing people, but the problem is more people are coming here than they're saying. In California, don't get it wrong. Like he said, some of the people are weird and crazy, but the land's great. It's just there's too many politics here. And if you don't like those politics, they screw you. And I've seen what's going on in my own state. It's a crazy ass state where certain people think that we should be doing certain things for the environment over people. And I get it. It's good to keep the environment clean. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with it. And I'm not saying I don't agree with global warming, but the problem is you're trying to get people to change. It's not going to happen. You make a bunch of laws people don't care about. And then what's going to happen in election day, they're going to vote for somebody like Trump. And they did. And that's what happened. The truth is Trump won because they're tired of being taxed. There's no money. And Joe Biden, if you notice how he's gone out since he got out of the election, he doesn't give a fuck. I truly think he sabotaged her, Kamala Harris. He did things purposely, like he corrected her about when she went off of Frank DeSantis about the hurricanes, and he says, "Oh, he hasn't done nothing." The next day, he says, "That's a lie. He has." And so is some of the other Republicans. Everybody's actually doing what they're supposed to do, and she looked like a liar. Him voting for her and voting against her, him bringing Trump the next day and saying he's welcoming him for his win. Come on, Joe Biden didn't like Trump. All of a sudden, he's going to, hey, well, by the way. So my personal opinion here in this state is that you keep voting for a certain party, it's going to keep getting worse. It's not getting any better here. I don't know who thinks it is. And it's crazy to me. And I'm not saying Republican or independent. I'm just saying it's the truth. This state is in trouble. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to be done. And I don't know what we're going to have to split there. That's what's going to happen. And I think they are doing it for purpose because then they can split the state up. That's what they want to do. You can have southern, north, and central, like I was saying. I think it will only be 3 parts. They've been trying to push this for about 25 years now. Sorry, guys, my throat's still dry. And so this is what they've been pushing for, this agenda. And we've been voting on it, and it keeps getting, it doesn't go through. And it's just like the time thing. Like, they like time saving. Well, Trump's going to change it now, and I'm glad, because we voted against it to get rid of it 4 years ago, and they still haven't done it because Edison and the farmers were crying about it. When did Edison decide they can control what we do? They're not a government-owned company. They're a private-owned company, and they don't have any kind of competitor. They'll use DWP, but DWP isn't even by here. What happens and how they get out of this loophole? Oh, they're in Barstow, so they're 30 minutes away. So it has to be within a 60-mile radius. This is bullshit. That's why they're making new places. Like Apple Valley has another electricity company. They're supposed to be more than one company. And then Edison telling people what they can and do with their electricity. Who the fuck are you going to tell me when I'm paying you? This is what I don't understand. Okay, with Edison. I get it with the government, whatever. They're going to do what they're going to do. But Edison don't have a right to tell us anything. We're paying them. Yeah, they're giving us electricity because we're paying them to give us electricity. They have nothing to say anything. We're paying you. Fuck you. And I get it with the government. They're going to take your money. There's nothing you can do about that. Yeah, but they're involved with them. So it just happens in the state. This state used to be wonderful. Early 80s, 90s, even throughout that time in the 60s, 70s, people loved it. They made songs. Around the late 90s, this place has gone down here where I lived. It was a wonderful place. Now it's not. It's got so expensive. Everybody's moving from LA, other places, and now we have a bunch of problems here. It's happening everywhere. It's not just here. Vegas, Arizona. It's got fucked up everywhere. But that's hearsay, or that's what's going to happen in life. Things change, things gets bigger. You're going to get more crime, more violence. Just what happens. But this used to be a different place. 30 years ago, I could go and get something, never worry about anything happening. Now you got to watch your back going to your car. I'm just saying how California is in general. It's just not a great place to live anymore. There's too much going on, too many people, too many problems, not enough money. It's just not the same place anymore. It sucks. And it's just the way it is. There's nothing we can do about it. Even if we voted a certain way, okay, for 2 or 3 years, even if it turns red, it won't last a couple years and then it'll go back blue because all these idiots believe a certain way. And I'm not saying I want red to win. It's just that California is in debt. California has been talking about a bullet train that hasn't never been made yet, and they're going to finally do it after 12, 13 years. They've been taking our tax money. Freeways, they say they're going to be done, takes years longer than they were supposed to. This is how it goes. They don't give a fuck. You keep giving them fucking money and you keep voting for dumb shit. You guys voted for the rent. You voted against the rent control. Now you got people, and this is what pisses me off is only 13% of people own their houses in California. Corporations own their houses, and now they're renting it out for about 10 people a house and making 6,000, 7,000 profit. And this is what people don't realize. And they voted against because they thought, oh, we're going to take people's houses away and make them pay rent their houses. No, you get these corporations are buying these properties up and they're fucking raising the prices on everybody. And this is what people don't understand. And it's happening. This is a very bad misconception in California. We only got 13 to 14% of people own houses in our state. That's bad. Where in Virginia was one of the top, it's like 40%, 45 or something like that. That should not be what we should not be at 14 or 13%. That's ridiculous, man. No one's living here. Everybody's renting. They live here, but they just don't own their own house. They just rent it. I rent my house. My parents own theirs. I'll probably rent a house unless, God forbid something happens to my parents, everything gets left to me. But I'm going to sell this house and leave if whatever happens. Unless they sell it and get another house. But even then, I'll still have to deal with. It's just the point is, I wouldn't stay here. I'm probably going to move anyway in the next couple years, a year or two. I don't like the high desert anymore. I'm done. I've been here since I was 7 years old. It's time for me to move on. It's just not the same desert. Yes, it's easy to get to, but it's just not the same place. I like it back down. I might go down the hill from my house, closer to LA, probably like an hour away from LA. It's going to be a lot more expensive, but the jobs are better paying down there. And everything's down there. And I'm getting older, man. I'm 46 years old. My wife's 49. We're getting older. 10 years ago, 8, 9 years ago when it was a different world. We were younger, but we're getting older, man. And it happens. Life happens. Me and James have been doing this show on Staring into the Abyss for 8 years now. And that's crazy how fast 8 years has gone. And we were a lot younger and better looking then too. But that being said, I think that there's something going on too with the fires. I'm not going to say anybody lit them on like spaceships or weapons or anything. I think there's people doing this, and it could be exactly what James is saying for the land. But they're talking about suing them now over this shit. Trump's getting involved. There's going to be a lot of shit that comes out after this. And it backfired on them because there's too many people have cameras. And I told you, it's not easy to get away with shit like it used to. It's almost impossible. It's not easy anymore. What you could have got away with 20 years ago, somebody's going to get you on a camera. You may not think you're getting caught, but somebody could be just driving by and just recording you. You never know what's going to happen anymore. You're always on camera. Somebody's always going to record you. Our lives are on TikTok and in virtual reality and stuff. Our life has become this. People don't even want to go out really anymore. People aren't doing anything anymore because COVID started that and stuff like this. We don't need to go out. I can see everybody here. I don't need to be hanging out with them all the time. And I think that was done for purpose. I think they wanted people to get more in solitude, where there's nothing around it, or they're with their wives. And if they get a divorce, that's because they can't stand each other, and people running around cheating on each other. Well, I have my opinions on that. I think I'm going to tell you this: in the next 50 years, monogamous relationships will be very rare, and that's the way it's going. And like it or not, it's just the truth. So that it's just happening, and that's because just people are different than they were back when we grew up. And it just, you don't meet people like you do now. Like before, when me and James growing up, you didn't meet people all over the place. You didn't have an unlimited access to people. You had either gone somebody you met in school, church, a restaurant, or you happily walked in, or you went to the next town or something. But now you don't have to do that. You can meet anybody all over the world. You have, and that's what I think has happened. There's so many people that you didn't have the access you had before, and now you're like, oh, I met this person. Wait a minute, this person's a little bit better, so I'll date them. They don't need to know. And this is the kind of attitude that people have, and then they act like you don't even exist. They'll just walk off on you, and that'll be it. And then you're toxic if you say anything about it. You're toxic. No, you're toxic. You're toxic because you can't handle a relationship, or at least tell the truth. You just got fed lies. People think lying is fine, and that's sad. But you know what? I'm going to say this. Lying's been going on for thousands of years. I didn't even go into it. Most religions are full of shit. Most people who are in politics are full of shit. They all lie. They all take money. You can believe whatever you want. That's fine. It is what it is. But I'm just saying that everybody's lies. But now it's to the point where people don't even care if you're lying anymore. They just believe it anyway. You can have the proof right in somebody's face, and they're just going to say something different because they don't care. They just want to make you look bad. They don't care if you have the truth or not no more. The truth doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore. It's how much you can lie about it and make yourself bigger and bigger. And then when you catch them, they'll try to make some video about how you're toxic or you're putting them down. No, when you're not famous and you go to somebody's car that's $400,000 and you're taking pictures to try to show off that you have that car, and you really don't, and then you get mad because somebody says, "Get the fuck off my car." That's the problem. People, we need to help people, but the first thing they do, they want to be rich. I'm a queen. I'm a king. Motherfucker, you ain't shit. You living in your parents' basement at 40 years old, and I'm not making fun of people. This is the truth. I don't live in my basement, and I'm not making fun of people who do. And don't take this wrong where I'm making fun of people, because some people just can't afford to live. But there's some people who are not doing shit, and they act like they're rich. I see it all the time on TikTok and social media. Here's the truth, so everybody knows. It's what I tell people on TikTok. TikTok's not the real world. There's people I know have 100,000 viewers or whatever I have 100,000 followers, and they live in their parents' house and don't work, and they're 40 years old. So that's why, and I'm not making fun of people. I'm just saying it's the truth. You got to be very clear in what you see. And this is going outside of California. I'm going to another topic because we do that. But you have to realize there's a lot of bullshit out there. A lot of people know who I am. Just so you know, we'll get it straight. My real name is James L. Ash. made myself out of a Facebook horror group into a international known paranormal investigator. I am now a horror author. My book is out now, Cheap Pop. And I'm also well known on TikTok. I'm also involved with the Order Grand Fate Dragon. I'm alliance with them. They're a very controversial group on TikTok. And a lot of people know who they are because of Dragon and his controversy, his mouth. We've had him on the show twice. We've had Tiger Bomb, the dude. He's fighting in May. I've had Celeste on here, and we had to cancel that show, and we've explained that. And one day we'll bring her back. That was a big misunderstanding, and one day we'll probably have her back. It was just a lot of these people, and they're cool. They have good jobs and stuff like that. But there's other people who are just, they make a little money on here, but we got all these followers, and then, they're not doing anything. So I don't really have that many followers, and people know who the fuck I am. I have a lot of followers on Facebook and Instagram, but not TikTok. I got 4,000, but I didn't really push it. I got shadow banned because I was just proving a point, and I did it. I prove a lot of points, and that's how I've always been. I got told I was never going to be nothing, guys, that I was stupid. I should go get locked up in a room. I should go in special classes, and I ain't gonna lie, and that, going on that, sorry, somebody wrote me, and I've always proved people wrong, and I am, just like where it wrote my own book. But and the fire thing, I'll get back to that in a minute. But I wanted people to know, because we were talking about social media too. I'm not going to ramble on about the fire. James pretty much went there, and then I could get off and let Andy go. And that's why I said the problem with James is he tells everybody the information. I have a couple things I could say, and then I run out. And there's nothing more I could say because he's already said it. So I go on to another subject for a minute, and that's the way we do. We're screwed. He just does that. It's fucking, you have to realize he's one of the smartest fucking people alive. He went to Mecha. He is very smart. And he knows more than you, and that's not making fun of you. And just so you know, that's not putting you down that you're stupid, or he's just smarter. Anybody who goes to Mecha is smarter than you. It's just true. Not saying like street smarts or anything, because it's a proven fact people are street smarts are smarter than people who do Mecha because they don't know how to communicate to people. And I'm not saying James doesn't, but a lot of them don't know how to talk to people like in a conversation. And that's what people don't understand. I work with one of the smartest fucking people in the world. I'm not. My IQ is like 120. And I have learning disabilities. I'm pretty decently smart. Andy's got an IQ of 5. But, it is what it is. We deal with it. I just had to do it because he's staring off to space. And I'm going to give him the short. But that being said, I do agree with everything James is saying about the fires. Except the thing with the beam and stuff, that's bullshit. And that's probably a TikTok rumor. But other than that, yeah, there's a lot of shit that's going on. They caught a lot of people. And I don't want to take too much time because we got to send this shit to Andy. And I'm going to. Here you go, brother.
That was quick. That's the way you end it. Yeah, man. Something probably you may know, James. I don't know if you know this or not about me, but I took, 2 summers of forestry school, spending time in deep woods, younger. And then I was on what they called the KVG crew, which was Keep Virginia Green crew, which was, we were firefighters. That's what we were. I mean, we were trained to firefight, but more we were used like as in, raking lines and doing, drip lines and stuff like that. And the number one thing that they used us for, man, and I remember this because I would have football practice in the morning. Then I would go help with the KVG crew, and then back to football practice in the evening. And our job was to go take care of that underbrush and to cut it out. And they would do this every single year, man. They would walk around, and they had guys that were part of the forestry department, and they would walk through, you know, miles and miles of property, and they would pick out, you know, they would mark trees like you were saying that were dead and they were needed to cut down, or they would be trimming out, you know, a lot of the underbrush and stuff like that, especially if it would be exposed to people. You know, now they didn't go all the way on top out in the middle of nowhere and do it. They left that natural, which, from my understanding, that's, you know, where most of the environmentalists and stuff would want stuff. But it's like, you know, you can't build and build and build. That's what I don't understand. These environmentalists are worried about, you know, bringing the water down there and killing this fish, or they're worried about this, or they're worried about that with the environment. But yet they just keep on building and building and building. And so, you know, what is going on here, you know? Okay, so you're screaming about the environment, and then you say, well, we can build, but we make all these emissions, or we make all this, you know. But it plainly come down to is that the governor dropped the ball when it came to using or doing what they have done for years in California, and that was employed people, man. So here's what you got. You got, if you don't want to pay, you know, hire government workers to do it, then contract the shit out, you know, contract it out. Not only are you giving back into the economy, but the thing is, those guys are going to be buying what gas they need, what tools they need, all that shit. And that's going back in, and you just boost the economy, man, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And California needs that for sure. But the thing is, they dropped the ball when it comes to that. This diversity stuff, man, with the firefighters, you're dead right about it. You know, taking the tests away, the physical part of it and everything, you know, how stupid is that? Because, you know, you're just pretty much letting anybody and everybody that just dreams to be a firefighter into the system to not be able to rescue and do the things that a firefighter is supposed to do and what they're paid for. And the thing is, why can't you still have physical tests that these people of, you know, these women or these gay people and stuff, they can take the same physical tests. You know, I've seen quite a few gay people that could probably whoop my ass, man, you know, being big and tough. And I've seen a lot of women that could probably do it, you know. And it's like, so it isn't like that you can't have diversity like that with the physical ability as well. And that's bullshit that they loosened up on that. And this is what you have going on now. You're exactly right, man. They carry these pumps. We used to carry the pumps like that. Now, we used to grab one guy on each end and take off with it. But we were also 15, 16 years old, you know, and carrying. But on the other hand, we were carrying, you know, shovels, pickaxe, whatever we had in the other hand, taking off with it. But there's many times I remember carrying it by myself too. And they're heavy, but they're not impossible. But they were literally talking about that the other day on the news, where there was two guys that were just regular people. They weren't firefighters or nothing, that were helping a group of 4 firefighters unravel the hoses because they couldn't pull. They weren't strong enough to pull the hose off the truck, is what it come down to. They're on this big reel, and once you get it going, it's pretty good, but you got to get it going at first. And then this shit of not having water, man, I don't understand that one whatsoever. When you live, the coastline is right there. And so they're worried. I heard that some of the issues with that Now I can understand winds and, they got these planes that are equipped to be able to go down and scoop the water up and then, spread it as needed. And the winds could maybe affect that a little bit. But, okay, well, then why don't you use pumps to pump it? Why don't you do something? I mean, there's a ton of other things. How many of these firefighting boats out here? Like, we got to ride one down in Richmond, man, and their water was pulled directly from the river, and we went on one in the bay. That's salt water. Where we were at, the part we were at was salt water. And but it had filters on it that actually filtered as much of the salt out of that as they could, because now I hear that the reason why they're complaining about using the salt water is because it kills the green shrubs and stuff like that. So now we're back to making a decision to let people's homes burn and people die versus that you're going to kill, a brush.
Hey, you know what
Yeah.
else kills green brushes? Fucking fire!
Exactly, man. And that's where I'm coming at. It's like, I hear these people talking, and it's like, man, why are we not only, I mean, there's no logical reasoning behind that. You're going to worry about, then they started talking about the soils would be different afterwards and the composition of things like that. And, yeah, they're going to be even also if you got, all these buildings burned down and everything else and stuff. I mean, none of it makes sense. I mean, you would think the number one thing they would be concerned about is getting the fires out because of human life. And then, honestly, man, it's sad to see how many, how much wildlife is being affected by this and killed. And then you got to think about, man, further looking down the line. So you have all this, woodland area that is burnt. So you burn up the resources of food for wildlife. So now you're going to end up with wildlife probably pushing in towards a food source, which would be inside, in the city or whatever. Then you're going to end up, I mean, you're going to end up with disease and starving, animals and stuff like that. Nonetheless, all the dead ones that are going to be laying around. I mean, you're looking at like stuff that could really, they're worried about the environment. Well, man, they ought to worry about stuff like that as well, but you can take care of that. I mean, wouldn't take, to me, having a little bit of experience in it when it comes to the forestry part of it and understanding, different things about it. The wind really got it, man, and then conspiracy theories out there. I listened to one the other night. What's the perfect time for, somebody to set something, when they know that these 80-mile-an-hour winds are going to be pushing through there and stuff like that. I did see videos. Now, like I said, it's videos, it's social media. You never know, man. But it showed, these guys were setting, a couple houses on fire. And, I wasn't sure. I mean, the fire was close enough to where it looked like it was going to get to that home anyway. So were they burning it off to say, F you, I'm not going to, let you do it. If I'm going to see my house burn, I'm going to do it. Or were they doing it for insurance money? Were they doing it for whatever? But my biggest issue, man, right now with all of this, outside of all the logical shit that they're not making any logical, real decisions. One, why are they turning away people that are coming to help? That makes no sense to me whatsoever, man, because I can tell you now that just because a person pulls up in a firefight in a fire truck does not mean that they have to fight the fire, man. You're going to have people that are going to need to be relocated. You're going to need people for medical help. You're going to need people, taking, shifts. I mean, you got to be able to replace these people, man, that are out there fighting. I mean, they're doing, one guy said he was out there for like 28 hours, man. I can't imagine pushing yourself to that point. But then again, like he said, now I'm no good for another 24 hours or more, and it's like, so that just, I don't understand why they would not want help. I mean, that's where you start thinking, well, do they want this shit to burn? And that's my thing. It's like, but here is something else, man, that I am having a big issue with whatsoever, because it hits at home. And that's because my oldest son, Jared, his grandfather, lost everything in Chimney Rock during the flooding. This man has yet to receive anything, man, with help. I could go into big stories that he's told me about, FEMA making decisions without even putting a foot on the ground there. Stuff like that, that are keeping them from, insurance companies are, denying these people's claims because FEMA's saying, oh, it was a mudslide, when there was no mudslide whatsoever. It was flooding and stuff like that. But the thing is, man, there's still people down there, man. I have friends, man, in the paranormal community. I have friends that live down there, man, that are finally being able to, get some kind of dignity back in their life with stuff. And they show pictures, man, on Christmas Day, tent cities, man. Literally tent cities, but there's stagnant water now that they're having issues with down there standing. It was almost like Florida, Louisiana, I forget who else down there, I guess, was affected, but North Carolina, all of them were just looked over, man. Like, it was almost like, I don't know. I mean, and it goes deeper than that, but, I don't have all night to talk about it. But the thing is, literally our president at the time was on vacation and took him, 2 days to respond or something like that to come back. Didn't even come back during a natural disaster like that, a national disaster. But then yet he's signing or saying that we are 100% going to pay for, whatever, when it comes to California. Not that I'm saying that they don't deserve to get anything. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, why is it that they are so, now all of a sudden concerned about American citizens out there in California, when just months ago they could give a shit less about the ones in North Carolina and in the South? And that just really gets me irked. And that's because I have heard the war stories. I've seen pictures, man, that you've not seen on the internet, of the things that are happening down there. I mean, people literally had to pull their own family members, man, out of trees and stuff where they were dead. There is a lot more death down there than what we are being told. And it's unfortunate. It's sad. But one of the reasons why is because people, they've had, I don't know how many cases, man, already that my friend Dale was telling me about, that's from down there, of people with hypothermia, dying, freezing to death, man, starving to death. Getting sick and have no medical, they can only do so much. Some of the roads, man, some people still have not been able to drive, but maybe in a 10-mile radius of their home, because there's just no road, and they're getting no help. Like, the people that are literally down there that are moving shit and building shit, 90% of them, man, are volunteer, because they either live there or they've took it upon themselves to travel to North Carolina and help these people out. And it's like, that, is the way it should be, with government backing. But then yet we have out there now, those guys do deserve to get as much help as they can. But then I see people, man, on there wanting to raise money and stuff for certain actors and stuff like that. And I'm like, hold on, man. These people have unlimited resource almost of money. And you're trying to do, like, I don't want to say a GoFundMe, but I mean, it's kind of what it is, just at a higher level. Am I sad to see? Do I feel, for my heart go out to these actors and stuff like that? Well, most of them, yeah, just because they're famous doesn't mean that they, should lose everything they got and stuff like that. But, but then again, you got the ones that have been pretty shitty towards people. And not saying they deserve it, but maybe this is a wake-up call or something. I don't know. But the thing is, man, whatever the issue is, whether it's conspiracy, whether it's freaking, people setting it on fire, whether it was a cigarette that set it on fire, whatever, man, that has nothing to do with the illogical thinking that this man out there is not doing, these people are not doing when it comes to fighting this fire, man. It doesn't matter how it got started. Let's get it put out and then worry about how it got started. And, they would worry more about, trying to point a finger at somebody or calling it a conspiracy the whole fucking time the place is burning down, And it's like you got historical places burning down. And I mean, it's sad, man, that this is happening. And the only thing that happens out of it is it ends up political. Well, let's talk about that shit after the fact. Let's get these people, get this fire put out, man, because winds change. You don't know how far this fire could go, And I don't know, you may know, James, that I'm done here with but do you know the percentage that they got under control now? I haven't heard it lately.
It varies. They got one of the fires supposedly completely put out, but then the wind changes, and next thing you know, it's back up to 70-80% that's not contained again. So speaking of what you said, I mean, that's exactly the problem, is you don't know. And people think you put out a fire and you're done. But those of us who have actually put out fires know that's not true. You could dump, thousands and thousands of gallons of water on a fire, and to the point where literally you're walking through almost like a pool of water on the ground, and there's still embers in that fire, and that shit will light right back up. Believe it or not, even standing in water, it'll light back up, and it'll catch again, and the wind will take it, and next thing you know, you're fighting the fire all over again. You got to give it a couple days to make sure that shit's good and out. That's why what they do is they go through and they'll take rakes and hose and they'll kind of spread that shit out. And then they'll respray it again. Then they'll spread it out again and respray it again. Because you got to make sure that you're getting all of those little embers. Because just one of them is all it takes. And then next thing you know, you got another fire going. But the situation in North Carolina you were talking about is even worse than most people realize. Because you've said multiple times those people aren't getting help. And the sad part of that is there's people that are trying to give them help. We sent supplies. We sent stuff. But what happened was we weren't allowed to give it to the people. FEMA just stole it. I talked about it on the show before. They just took the shit. And they wouldn't give it to nobody. I don't know what the fuck they did with it. Because when you try to find out, they just tell you to leave or you're going to be arrested. So, literally, they're just stealing shit and not distributing it to the people. Now, I don't know if they're selling it themselves or if what they're doing with it, I have no idea. But I know it's not going to the people that it was supposed to be going to that need it. And that's fucking crazy. And I don't know how we got to a point in this country where something like this happens and we try to help as just normal citizens. We spend our own money and we try to help these people and we're not allowed to. You literally take the supplies that I bought and steal them. Who the fuck got them? Because who was supposed to get them was the people that lost everything because of the flood. They were supposed to get that water. They were supposed to get that food. They were supposed to get those blankets. Where the fuck are they? Some FEMA dickhead took them. I don't know what the fuck they did with them. And I guarantee you it's not just this one case. I guarantee that's happening to other people too. Has to be. Because I know there's a lot of people that have something that have tried to help. But for some reason, those people just aren't getting what they need. You know, and I'm sure a little bit trickles through here or there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're getting absolutely nothing. But I can tell you from personal experience that some of us sent some stuff. And it was supposed to go to those people. And that shit was stolen. It was taken by the government and they just wouldn't let them have it. And I don't know where the fuck it went. And I can't get no answers. You know, so I don't know, man. It ain't right. You know, I can understand if the government says, well, we're not going to help you. You know, as evil as that is and as fucked up as that is, whatever. But at least let us help. Why the hell can't we help them? You know, I mean, Jesus said, you know, what you've done to the least of us, you've done to me. That's our job. We're supposed to look out for each other and help each other. But when we try, can't do it, you know, because they just take it away from you and threaten to arrest you if you don't go away. That's crazy. You know what I mean? But that's the way it is with the government, man. That's the way it is with the left, man. I mean, I've done work in the past, even before I was successful. I've done work in the past with the homeless where I would just spend a little bit of money. You know, nothing major. You know, before I had any money, it wasn't like I was spending a shit ton of money. I mean, I'd literally go down and buy, you know, like 10 loaves of bread and a couple big jars of peanut butter and some jelly and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Put them in some baggies and go to the thrift store and buy, you know, thrift stores and yard sales and buy a bunch of blankets and shit like that. Go to the Dollar Tree and buy some toiletry stuff. Make up little kits and go down to DC and hand them out. You know, maybe all in all might have $100, $200 in the whole thing. You know, I wasn't balling back then. I didn't have a bunch of money. You know, work some overtime, get a little bit extra on the check. Hey, man, I'm going to help somebody with this. You know, so I used to do that shit all the time and go down there and work with those people, you know, and help them out. And I don't know if I told Andy about this, but a couple of weeks ago, well, probably a little bit more than a couple of weeks now because we've been off for a couple of weeks. A month or two ago, I went into a Dollar General store in Tom's Brook, and I got to talking to the lady there because it was a new girl that had just started. And we were talking about stuff that was going on in North Carolina, actually. And she was really upset about it, about what was going on. And, you know, we got to talking about it. And I was telling her about how we were putting together a shipment to go down and to help those people, you know. And she, you know, she was talking about how great that was, whatever, you know, whatever. That's not what I'm doing for. But what I'm saying, the whole point, I'm starting to get old, so I'm talking like Andy. I'm just going on and on and on. I'm telling a story. But the point of this is, come to find out, she used to be homeless in D.C. And where she knew me from, see, a lot of people know me when they talk, when I walk in someplace and they talk to me. A lot of people know me from my books. A lot of people know me from the shows, that kind of thing. Or maybe they saw me playing a band many, many moons ago with Andy and them. You know, people know me. But this woman knew me and recognized me because she was one of the people in D.C. that was homeless that I gave food and blankets and stuff to. I helped her. Now, I didn't remember her because, I mean, shit, there's a lot of people. You know what I mean? And that's, I don't mean that in a callous or like a I'm better than you kind of way. The human brain can only remember so much shit consciously, right? You meet so many people that eventually they just go away in your brain. You can't remember it all. As much as you try, you just can't. So apparently I helped this woman back when she was homeless. And I really helped her out, and I even gave her some money and helped her to be able to get on her feet. Now, like I said, I don't remember her, you know, but she said that I did that, and she was really, really happy about it and excited that she finally got to meet me. You know what I mean? And that was, believe it or not, it was a humbling kind of experience for me. It wasn't like I felt like a big shot or anything like that. I was really happy because she's now working and she's got her life together and she's doing good, you know, and that's awesome. And for some people, man, that's all they need is a little help, and they can get their shit together and then get back on track, you know. And like the people in North Carolina, that's all they need, just a little bit of help, just get them back on their feet. You know, believe me, North Carolina is in the South, man. That's a southern state. That's filled with rednecks and good old boys, and we don't need a handout from you. You know, it ain't about that. It ain't about pay my bills. It's about just, man, get me back on my feet. I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost everything. I don't have anything anymore. All I need is just a little bit to get me going, and I'll build the rest back. That's how the people down here feel, you know. And I think it's not just criminal, but it's downright evil to take somebody who's trying to help and not allow that help to get to the people. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy, you know. Now, I'm not surprised that Biden has said we're going to pay for 100% of the rebuilding in California because California's a blue state. You know, they're Democrats. Of course, they're gonna help their own. You know, we know how they feel about us. You saw what they did in North Carolina. I mean, you had whistleblowers in FEMA that said that if they went to an area and your house had like a Trump sign or your car had a Trump bumper sticker on it, they wouldn't help you. They'd pass right by your house and you wouldn't get shit from them. So we know how they feel. You know, but of course they're going to help California because California's a bunch of lefties like they are. You know, now I don't know how I feel about helping California. I want to help the people. You know, because a lot of those people they may be stupid, but it's not their fault that their house burned down. I mean, you could say it is in a way because they voted for these dumbasses. So, you know, they didn't do anything about it. This whole time they keep voting for the same people and they're not doing anything to fix your life. They just keep making it worse. But yet you keep voting for them. So that's stupid, you know? So that's what you get. A lot of people will say that. But I believe that even if you're dumb, you should still get a little bit of help sometimes if you need it, you know? I believe that just because you vote like a jackass doesn't mean that you should have to lose everything and your kids don't have nothing to eat. That's going too far for me, you know. But I think there's got to be some kind of rules put in place for these people. You know, they have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're not going to do what they're supposed to do. So if you cannot vote for people that will actually fix your fucking state, then why the hell should the rest of the country have to keep bailing your stupid ass out over and over and over again? Get your shit together, California. Pull your head out of your stupid ass and fucking vote for people that'll fix your damn state. Because if you keep voting for Democrats, we're going to have to keep bailing your stupid ass out. California is basically like that member of your family, and we all have that member of the family, who just ain't worth a fuck. They got all the potential in the world. They could have been something, but they're just dumb. And they keep making stupid mistakes, and they got their head rammed so far up their ass that their breath smells like shit. And you know that dumb son of a bitch is going to end up sleeping on your couch. That dumb son of a bitch, you're going to have to keep bailing them out. I mean, you think I could borrow $200 this month for an electric bill? I just don't have it. You think I could do this? That's that people. Everybody has people in their family like that. They're just too damn dumb. That's California, unfortunately. You know, I wish it wasn't. I don't take any joy in saying that. But how else are you going to explain it? How else are you going to explain a group of people that continually get screwed over by their own government, yet they continue to vote for them over and over and over again? Man, that's stupidity. I don't have any other way to say it. And I know that's not nice. And I know people are going to get mad at me. I understand. But I always tell you the truth. And that's the truth, man. I don't have any other reason that I can think of other than you're a bunch of dumbasses. Why would you continue to vote that way? And I know not everybody in California votes for the Democrats. I understand that. I know there's a lot of Republicans that are living in California who don't want the Democrats to be in charge. I get it. And I guess I'm not really talking to you if you're a Republican that lives there, or if you're somebody that doesn't vote for these idiots. I'm not really talking to you. I'm talking to the people who keep voting for these people. What the fuck do you expect is going to happen? Old boy said they've known about some of this shit for more than a decade, for 20 years, he said. Well, if you've known this shit for 20 fucking years, why are you still voting for these people? If for 20 years they've been doing this to you, if every year you got to worry about your whole fucking town burning down because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if for 20 years they put the life of a stupid fish over the life of your family, what the fuck are you doing? How do you expect that a hardworking person in some other state is going to say, yeah, that's fine. Take a bunch of my paycheck to pay for these jackasses again. You know, and I'm not trying to be mean, but think about that. Would you want to do that? If you had to continually pay over and over and over again for some dumbass in Florida or for some dumbass in Arizona or some dumbass in Texas or wherever, because they keep making the same stupid mistake over and over and over again, you got to keep bailing them out. Would you want to keep doing that? I'm not saying that people that have lost their homes or people that need food and help shouldn't get the help. Yes, absolutely, they should get the help. We should bail them out again because that's what Christians do. But at some point, somebody got to lay down the law and say, look, you fucking dummies have got to start taking care of your forest. You fucking dummies have got to let the water go through your fucking state. Pull your head out your ass. You got to reinstitute physical standards for your fire department so that the people who are working can actually do the fucking job. Common sense. And if you're not going to do that shit, I'm sorry, we're just not going to pay for you no more. You can kiss our ass. If you keep doing the stupid shit, you're going to have to deal with it yourself. That's what needs to happen. Now, will it ever happen? Probably not. Would I even feel right about it happening if it did? Probably not. Because like I said, the people that lost everything, man, they need the help. They should get the help. I got no problem. Take my tax money and use it for that. But please, for God's sake, somebody do something. Somebody fix the fucking problem. And honestly, man, it's not even about the money for me. I don't give a shit. You can have it. Money means nothing. It's not even really about the money. It's about the people. Shit. How many people got to die? How many times people got to lose everything before they wise the fuck up? It sucks, man. They said, I was watching on the news today, the death toll is now up to 16 in those fires. That's what they said on the news today. I'm sure it's much higher, but that's what they've announced. Okay? So let's even go with the low number, 16. And then let's consider where this is. LA. Probably one of the most evil fucking places in the world, at least in America, right? Filled with a bunch of sinners, filled with a bunch of non-believers, right? Would that be a fair assessment? So that means 16 people, probably at least 10, maybe 12 of those people died without being saved, without knowing Jesus as their Savior. That's heartbreaking to me. Now, I know old boy don't give a shit about that. I'm not saying he don't give a shit about people dying, but he thinks it's all hocus pocus bullshit. But to me, man, that means something. That means those people died without being saved. They're not in heaven right now. That sucks. That's horrible. You have robbed those people of the ability to go to heaven. You've cut their life short before they were able to be saved. That's horrible to me. That's worse than just dying if you are saved. Because at least if you're saved and you die, you're not going to burn for all eternity. Imagine that crazy shit. You're sitting there minding your own fucking business. All of a sudden, you're caught in a fucking wildfire. You burn to death. You wake up. You're still fucking burning for like ever. That sucks. To me, that's absolutely heartbreaking. You know, and that's why I always say, man, you never know when the end is going to be. You never know when you're going to die. One thing is absolutely for sure: we're all going to die. One way or the other, we're all going to die. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So are you prepared for that? And there's a lot that goes into that. Have you set your family up to where if you die, they're going to be okay? I worry about that. You know, that was one of my biggest worries when I was younger, was making sure that my wife and my family were okay if something happened to me. Is that something you can say? Is that something you can honestly look in the mirror and say, you know what? If I die, my wife's going to be all right. My kids are going to be all right. They're going to be able to pay the bills. They're not going to be homeless and fucked. It's important. Have you taught your children the right things in life? If you were to be gone tomorrow, because these people, I'm sure these people didn't plan on dying that day. Nobody really does. So if that's you, if your number gets called and your time is up, have you taught your kids what you need to teach them so that they can be successful and have a good life? Did you make sure you told them you loved them before you walked out that door? It's important shit. Because you never know. You might not get another chance. Is the last words that you said to the most important person in your life words of hate? Did you have an argument before you walked out that door and you said, fuck you, I hate you, or whatever? You know, some ignorant shit in anger. And then you never see him again. Are they going to be haunted with that as your last words? Do you know where you're going when you die? I don't mean do you have a theory. Do you think maybe this, maybe that? I mean, do you know where you're going? Are you saved? Do you know? I'm not trying to turn this into a sermon, but to me, that's pretty damn important because they don't have that opportunity to make that choice anymore. It was made for them. So if they didn't make that decision before they died, bad luck. You know, it's horrible. So I would just urge everybody to think about that. To think about that at any moment your life could be over. And if it is, are you prepared? Do you have everything in line? Do you have your family set up? Do your kids know you love them? Have you set up their college? Have you set up their future? Have you done what you're supposed to do? And have you set up your own afterlife? Very, very important. With that being said, we've been going for a while, so I reckon we will wrap this puppy up. I'm going to throw over to one of these gentlemen and let them do their sum up and wrap up and shout outs and all that jazz, and then we'll end this puppy. So whoever wants it, go ahead.
I want to thank everybody for listening to us on We're Screwed. Enjoy it on Spotify. Like I said earlier, my new book is out, Evil Without a Face. You can get it at Amazon, and you can also get it at Kindle. It's going to be out on Barnes & Noble soon. Check it out whenever you guys can. James has read it, some of it, and he's going to tell you guys his review soon. You can, well, eventually I'm gonna try to see if what I can do with Amazon with copies, and if I can get a deal or something, but we'll see if I can autograph a couple for you guys. That being said, thank you guys for listening to us. It's a new year. It's 2025. I want to thank Andy. I want to thank James for being here again. Going on, I think we're screwed for the last 6-7 months now, so it's good. We're screwed 2.0, and I'm enjoying it.
Just like Andy enjoys singing with Corey Philman. But other than that, I had to do it. I missed the guy. I haven't seen him for a couple weeks. I got to fuck with him. But that's the way it is. I want to give a shout out to the order. I want to give a shout out to my wife. I want to give a shout out to everybody who listens to us. Celeste. I want to give a shout out to all you guys. Have a good night, Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Lovers, Demon Hunters. It's the legendary old boy, and I hope you have a good night. Motherfuckers, have a good night. Bye.
Yo, good show. Well, Happy New Year's, man. Yeah, because we didn't get to say that to people, really. You know, this is the first one back, and I'm glad to be back. As always, man, I'm grateful to be with these two guys, so shout out to them. But I also wanted to give a shout out to a lot of people, man, but we'll stick with about as little as we can here. Definitely a shout out to the firefighters, man, the ones that are out there that are fighting that. A shout out to anybody that's helping out. A shout out to the people down in North Carolina and Florida and the ones that were affected by, you know, the storms and stuff like that. And the people that have helped out there. I want to give a shout out personally to Dr. Eric Jackson, who straightened my leg out and put the new hip in, and the guy was phenomenal. Great guy, straight up, tell you how it is. And, you know, I kind of like that. Like, you know, no trying to hide it with meds and, you know, just postponing, you know, what you're going to eventually have to do. And, you know, he was straight up concerned and watched over me. And I had to have it done on Christmas Eve. So, you know, I woke up Christmas morning, well, what little bit of sleep I got through the night, you know, with this doctor coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning, who I know has kids, with 2 pieces of Christmas cake. And that's what we had for breakfast, and talked about how, you know, surgery went. And he didn't even have anything the rest of that day. And just to come in and make sure I was cool and to get me out of there, you know, so I could come home and actually spend Christmas, you know, afternoon at home. You know, he didn't have to do that. But a shout out to him for, you know, just being, you know, an honest, actually, doctor, which is hard to come by, I think, anymore. So shout out to him. Shout out to all the ones that follow us on here. And looking forward to more fun, man, on here in 2025.
Yeah, I'm glad you pulled through okay, man. I was praying for you and praying for the surgeon and everything. So I'm really happy how things turned out and worked out. That's awesome. Andy's a funny guy in a way, because usually you can't stop the son of a bitch. I mean, he just goes and goes and goes. And anybody who's ever walked through the woods with this man will tell you that he'll outwalk you. You know, and it's funny because he had a weird little walk for quite a while, because his hip's been bad for a while. And so it's kind of like this limpy, rolly, kind of draggy kind of walk. But man, he could just boot scoot down through them fucking woods. And you know, I'm a damn giant with long ass legs. I'm 6'5", and I'm trying to keep up with the son of a bitch. And I'm like, God, man, you need to slow the fuck down. I can't. You wear me out. I can't keep up with you. And I can only imagine now that he's all healed up, you know, and got a bionic man part in him or whatever, that he's gonna really be rocking and rolling through them woods. So it's gonna be really good to see. And I'm just so happy that everything worked out and you're doing good, man. That makes me really happy, because I love you, brother, and I'm glad you're back. I'm glad everything worked out for you. And I just like to thank everybody for watching, and keep everybody in your prayers, man. You know, keep praying for the firefighters. Keep praying for the people who are losing everything over there. Keep praying for the people in North Carolina. And if you want to throw some prayers my way, I could always use them. You know what I mean? I got a pretty good life. I'm doing really well, but I struggle with shit too. You know what I mean? I don't need anything from anybody. But prayers to make me, especially if you're somebody who don't agree with me on stuff, who sits there and watches me and cusses at me and shit. If you are a believer, shit, pray for me, man. pray for me to have wisdom and for God to help me do the right thing and to help me to see things the way that He wants me to see them, you know? Because my biggest problem, my biggest fault is unfortunately I'm smart, you know? And as a smart person, like old boy said earlier, I was involved with Mensa. I've done a lot of different things. Um, as somebody like that, I tend to overthink things. You know, I my background is in science, and so I approach things from that point of view a lot. And I want evidence. I want to prove things. I want to be able to lay it out and to be able to study it and make sure that I'm making the right choice. And the way God works isn't like that. You know, God will put something on your heart that doesn't make any sense. And no matter what you do, you can't make heads or tails of it. It doesn't make any damn sense. Like, I used to be a very poor person. You know, my family are a bunch of hillbillies. We come from the mountains of West Virginia. Shit, my grandmother didn't even have running water and plumbing in her house until I was like in high school. Like, we would go to visit grandma, we'd have to go out back to the outhouse. There wasn't even a toilet, right? So it's not like we were rolling in cash. And I thought I was doing pretty good for myself because I ended up getting a job as a forklift driver and I was making halfway decent money. You know, still didn't have really any money, but I was be able to pay the bills at least. You know, I was doing okay. And my grandfather got cancer, and it's one of those kind of cancers you could see from across the street. There's a big old ugly son bitching thing on his neck. That's like sticking way the hell out, and it was pretty bad. And he ended up going to the doctor, and basically the doctor told him, "Man, you got 2 weeks to live. Get your shit in order. You know, go home, tell your wife you love them, tell your kids you love them, get your affairs in order because you ain't gonna be here more than a couple weeks." And my grandfather was not a nice man. My grandfather used to savagely beat all of us. You know, he would beat me with axe handles and shit when I was little. You know, so he was not a nice guy. And because of that, not that many people really wanted to do anything for him or take care of him, you know. And he didn't, I guess he loved me because I was his grandson, but he didn't like me too much, you know. And God put it on my heart that I needed to take care of that man. I didn't want to take care of that man. You know, he was never very nice to me. But God kept putting it on my heart that I had to do it. I had to do it. And, you know, like most things, I tried to kind of fight it. I tried to kind of make excuses why, nah, I don't need to do that. That can't be what God's telling me to do. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? And he just kept on me. So finally I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this thing. It's only going to be for a couple weeks. God keeps pestering me about it. So I can't shake this feeling that it's what I have to do. So I'm going to do it. So I went to my boss and I said, look, man, my grandfather's dying. He got cancer and doctor told me he only had 2 weeks to live. I need a couple weeks off so I can take care of this guy. And my work basically told me, no, you can't have it. We need you. You know, we can't spare you right now. And I said, no, look, you don't understand. I got to have this time off. There's nobody else that can do this. I've got to do it. And they basically said, well, you can't have it. So I had just gotten married to a woman who was way out of my league. And I didn't have really anything in the bank. But I turned around and walked off my job, quit, walked out because God told me I had to take care of my grandfather. So here I am, unemployed, no money, just got married to a smoking hot chick. No idea how I'm going to keep this woman fucking happy. No idea how I'm going to keep a roof over my head. I don't have two damn nickels to rub together. How's this going to work? But I thought 2 weeks and then I can get back to my life, go get another job, and things will work out. Well, I talked to my grandfather. I told him I was going to take care of him, but he had to fight. You know, I said, don't you give up. I said, I'll be there. I will make your meals. I'll wipe your ass. I'll give you a bath. I'll do everything you need done. I'll be here, but you got to fight. So he fought. He didn't die. He didn't die after 2 weeks. He lasted 7 years. 7 years when he was only supposed to last 2 weeks. Now, in that time, me and my grandfather ended up having a good relationship, becoming friends. He ended up getting to see his great-grandchildren being born and to know them and teach them how to play checkers and shit. Okay? All wonderful, amazing, great things. The problem is I didn't have any money. I had to pay my bills. I had made a commitment to him and to God that I was going to take care of him. There wasn't no money coming in. He wasn't paying me. Nobody had the money for me, right? What am I going to do? How am I going to pay my damn bills? How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to make sure that my wife don't run away? What the fuck? Come on, God. You told me I had to do this, and now I'm just swinging in the breeze here, bro. Right? Somehow I kept paying the bills. I would mow a lawn, you know. During this time period, I actually mowed Andy's old house. That lawn for his family is one of the lawns that I mowed for $50 that paid my bill when I didn't have any damn money. It was blessings like that. It was going out and just saying, hey man, somebody needs a room painted. I'll go paint that room for $100. And hey, I'm able to pay this bill now because of it. I still didn't have two nickels to rub together. I just barely paid the bills every month and just barely fed myself. I ate a lot of like ramen and spaghetti and shit like that because I didn't have any money. But somehow every month for 7 years, I paid the bills. Now, partway through that, I had a lot of time on my hands because me and the old man weren't friends yet. So basically, I'd be sitting there with a guy that didn't want to talk to me because he didn't like me a whole lot. So it was a lot of awkward silence going on, you know? So I thought, well, I've always wanted to write. You know, I've always had that gift. And I had all these crazy ass nightmares my whole life. That would be a good thing to write about, you know? So I started putting on paper these things that I've been dreaming, these horrible dreams. And since I had the time, I said, what the hell? I'll write them out, you know, and pass the time. So that's what I did and ended up getting published. And at first, you know, it was touch or go and make a little bit here, a little bit there, but nothing major. You know, I kept plugging away. I would take care of grandfather and I would, you know, go over in the other room and do a phone interview or something like that, you know, for a radio show here or there or whatever, just trying to promote. You know, I would go in Old Boy's horror group that he was talking about earlier and do posts and shit like that about the books. And, you know, and eventually sales started to pick up. And then all of a sudden, overnight, it seemed, it was on a bestseller list. All of a sudden, I was just getting checks. Like I was starting to do good. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. You know, and 4 bestsellers later, I'm doing all right. You know, I don't have to go back to driving a forklift or any other job like that if I don't want to. You know, I've made a good amount of money and I've invested a good amount of money. So I'm okay, you know. But none of that shit would have happened if I wouldn't have listened to God. Even though it didn't make any sense to me at the moment, if I wouldn't have done what God told me to do, I'd still be driving a forklift. You wouldn't know who the hell I am. I'd just be some other redneck in a small town somewhere, working way too much, tired as hell. So even though I didn't understand why God wanted me to do what he wanted me to do, I didn't agree with it. I listened because that's what you do. And look what it led to. It led to a whole new career. It led to a whole new life. It led to me being able to make sure everybody I love is okay. It led to me being able to take care of people that needed taken care of. It led to me being able to help a lot of people that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to help. God took my obedience and my little bit of sacrifice that I did, right? The work that I put in. And he magnified that thousands and thousands fold. And he used that little nugget, as Jesus called it, that little mustard seed of faith that I showed by listening, even though it didn't make sense. And he moved the mountain. He literally changed the lives of a lot of people. He used that to help a lot of people. That's not because I'm so awesome. That's not because I'm this great guy. That's all God, man. He planned it all. He did it all. It's amazing. So that's what I'm saying. It may not make sense. You may not understand what God is telling you to do, but if God's telling you to do something, you need to just listen and do it. Because we may not understand his plan, but he knows his plan. He knows his plan, and it always works out good for you if you're obedient, you know? So with that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I would wrap that story up and that point up, but be honest with you, I'm old. I done forgot what the hell I was talking about. I got into the story, and it was a great story, and I enjoyed telling you, and I love you, but I don't remember what the hell my point was in all of that. So if you know what my point was and you got the point I was supposed to be getting out to you, then great. God wins again. Because as a man, I don't remember what the hell I was talking about. But I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you're well. I think the point I was talking about actually was keep praying for all these people. That was what I was saying in the beginning. So do that. You know, and if you want to pray for me, that's wonderful too. That's what I was saying. I remember now. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, it's up to you to make up your own mind. And we'll catch you on the next one. Till we speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.